history of cinnamon. If we want to talk about the present and future of cinnamon, we should know the history of cinnamon. Cinnamon has been a very luxurious and a very lucrative business since the very ancient past. And first records on cinnamon rolls back to about 4000 before Christ BC. In Chinese scrolls, they have mentioned the name cinnamon. And Egyptian and Roman civilizations, they were very fond of using cinnamon because they were using them for mummification and many other ceremonies, especially religious. And I should mention that I'm not talking about Ceylon cinnamon here. No one has mentioned that they have been using Ceylon cinnamon or cinnamon. Sometimes they have mentioned the name Cassia. And cinnamon as a substance or a spice has been mentioned in many chapters of the Holy Bible, Revelation, Exodus, Proverbs. Especially, they have used cinnamon as an offering to God. In many religious activities, they have mentioned they have recommended to use cinnamon. Also in ancient literature, I have mentioned several the ancient literature, histories by Polybius, before Christ again, Curculo by Plautus, again literature work, very ancient literature work done before Christ, poems by 27th AD, and Lucan's work, and also in the Jewish War by Josephus in 75 AD. Those are the historical records where we find cinnamon. I mentioned those to show you that cinnamon has been probably the oldest spice mentioned in the ancient literature and ancient maps. Now I told you that there are two types of cinnamon, mainly cinnamon and cassia. The words have been interchangeably used in ancient literature and ancient work. However, Roman writers had distinguished the difference between the cinnamon and cassia. Now also, in the present market, there's a huge price difference between cassia and cinnamon. At that time, it had been, if you can see, it was 1,500 denaries per pound and only 50 denaries per pound for cassia. About 30 times price difference. Now also, there is a price difference. A kilogram of Ceylon cinnamon worth 3 times of the same quantity of cassia at present. However, origin of cinnamon or cassia at that time, the European people, European writers and explorers, or these interested parties, there's a confusion. The ancient literature does not exactly say where the Europe gets cinnamon from. Herodotus says that it is from Arabia, and Greek legends says that it is from India. Some historians say it is from Somalia, and Marco Polo, the very famous explorer, he says that it is from Malabar, Ceylon, and Tibet. And British East India Company records mention that it is from China. So there's a confusion among Europeans in ancient records where exactly the origin of cinnamon was. Now, there's a reason for that, because before this part of the world, I mean Asia, was unknown to Europe, Arab traders were the people that dominated the cinnamon trade. They kept the origin of cinnamon very secretly because they had a monopoly on cinnamon. They were the only persons that uh, exported or that they transported cinnamon from this part of the country, this part of the world to European market. So they did not want to reveal the secret of cinnamon. Not only that, they made up stories like how great serpents and birds guarded the cinnamon bushes, how difficult it was to cinnamon, and through that they could maintain an exclusive price in the European market. However, they could not keep the secret for a long time because these stories were not enough to keep away the Europeans to this part of the world, to Asian or Eastern part of the world in search of spices, especially cinnamon. That is why King of Portugal he was the king between 1490 1521. He wrote to King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella mentioning that they have found the secret of cinnamon. It means they have found where the origin of cinnamon was. However, uh, until the 16th century, there's no reference to Sri Lanka or cinnamon in connection to this valuable spice. Under the name of cinnamon, there were many countries like Ethiopia, there was another country, Cinnamon Island, and Tibet, India, China, but nowhere it has been mentioned that Sri or Ceylon or Taprobane at that time produced cinnamon. Under Sri Lanka, of course, they had mentioned Sri Lanka is famous for elephants, gems, and other spices, but no one has mentioned that Sri Lanka is famous for cinnamon. According to Cooley, an historian, Ceylon remained unknown to the world until the 6th century. It was Ibn Battuta. I don't have to explain who Ibn Battuta is. He's a very well famous explorer. He was the first person to record cinnamon in Sri Lanka. When he came to Sri Lanka traveling by sea, he had seen and he had recorded the scenery of cinnamon bushes along the coastal belt of Sri Lanka. And Barbosa was a ship captain. In the 16th century, he was the first European to admire the superiority of Ceylon cinnamon. After that, Ceylon cinnamon not only has been mentioned under the Sri Lanka's official name, but also they have frequently mentioned that the best cinnamon is produced in Sri Lanka, an island called Taprobane or Ceylon in the Indian Ocean, and the best cinnamon in the universe, not in the world, in the universe, is produced there. That is how ancient travelers or explorers and writers, they have mentioned. Knox in 1681, 1613, all those people are famous historians. They have mentioned. And Sir Emerson Tennant, of course, is a British writer in 1860. He says that cinnamon that is produced in this country is excellent, much superior to that of Guangxi. That should be Cassia.